Hey there everyone, Luke here, and after the cliffhanger of the last chapter, I'm very excited to find out exactly what Stanley's response to this whole situation is going to be, and what Busey's reaction is going to be after the fight, after realizing, like, yeah, he can't go to space. Although there might be a reason why that's being changed up, and we'll get into it when we'll get into it. But if you want more details about what I think of this chapter, as opposed to just the simple review. If you want my initial response to it, go and check out my mine and Party Jam's live stream that we started doing every week. It's really good for me to actually do that because I have someone to bounce off ideas off and get a full conversation going, which I really love and really enjoy. So for now, let's just get right into the chapter. Alright, so this will be chapter 221, entitled Entrust It All. Obviously, a reference to the fact that Stanley, Senku, and Kohaku will be the ones to actually go and confront the Wireman, and so everyone is entrusting everything to them. But anyway, the chapter starts off with Ryusui reiterating that in our war against Wireman, the most capable pilot on our side actually isn't me, and I'm glad that this is actually showing depth to Ryusui's character, again showing that even he knows his own limitations and knows, like, yeah, there is someone out there better than me, and I may desire to go to space, but at the same time I desire the future of humanity more because I want to share my greed with the whole of humanity. That's kind of like Ryusui's character. If you remember the first flashback that we got with him, this is what Fran's resolve was for Ryusui, is that, yeah, he is no in their mind, he is not shallow. He does the hard work because it benefits not just him but the whole world. So this is kind of like coming full circle for his character. And we continue with him actually in one of the huts that they've built in Ishigami village, as we see him looking over the design of the rocket, and he's just reminiscing of the flashback in the last chapter when he said to Sai in their youth that this ship's not content with just building a model. I'm going to set sail someday on a real ship of my own. And yeah, he's thinking of, like, yeah, I'm going to set sail on a real ship of my own. But if you really think about it, Rios, well, you've already done that with the Perseus. You built the Perseus. That was your ship, and you've set sail on it. So in a way, you've kind of already done that. But this is more on a bigger scale than just a simple sailing ship. But again, it's like, you've already kind of done your dream, so I feel like that's kind of what he's probably thinking about as well. It's like, yeah, I've already kind of done my dream with the Perseus, so maybe I should let somebody else have this privilege. But again, that's kind of like up in the air of, like, what is he thinking about when he built the Perseus, or or he's more probably thinking about when they're actually going to be building this rocket. And there might be a reason why Tsukasa and Ryusui are being left behind, and we'll get into it when we get into the end of the chapter. But one thing that actually I was like scratching my head about is that I watched somebody else's, like, one of the more prominent Doctor Stone reaction peeps on YouTube. You probably know who it is, but it's a female reactor. Yeah, she was very confused why Kohaku is the one still going in space, and I'm like, just there scratching that, like, didn't she read the last chapter? Because it's clearly stated why Kohaku is going, and also just the symbolism of it being the descendant of Byakuya and Lillian going to space with Byakuya's son. Like, what's there not to get? Anyway, we see Senku pass by the hut as Ryusui has a question for him, in the form of a parable. Say you were a knight in some medieval country. As a young and dashing knight, you pine for the princess of the palace. You talk about having a future together, but the princess as a more appropriate suit to the prince from the next kingdom over. Marriage between the two would bring peace and harmony to all the land. What's your move as a science poet? And I love this because this is actually a callback to right at the beginning of the series, where Senku had a similar situation with Tsukasa, where in a flashback to Senku's high school days, you had the book that Gen wrote where about psychology, where it's like if you had to choose between your lover or your mother, I think it was his mother. Like, actually, you know what? Let me go and find it. Okay, it did take me a while, but I did eventually find the image. So yeah, here it is. It's from chapter. What chapter? What chapter? It's from um, chapter 12. So it's from the end of the prologue. So basically, the question was that Gen posts to everyone. Um, Imagine there's a terrible accident. You can only save yourself, your friend, or your significant other. Which he choose? Okay, so it wasn't his mother, but again, this was. But yeah, again, this idea to that's the use we presents to Senko was basically the same general concept, and I'm glad and I love that they actually brought that back, like a general like psychology test or power blow, as Ryusui puts it. And of course, Senku being Senku, he's like, what are you blabbering about? Before he kind of puts two and two together. Like, he sees the spaceship, sees Ryusui, and he's kind of like, oh, okay, he's getting the idea of like, oh, okay, so Ryusui's basically asking me, without saying in so many words, should we revive Stanley because he's a more capable pilot than me and he's a much more better marksman than I'll ever be? What should we do? And and Senku knows that that this is important for Ryusui. Like, this is an important moment for Ryusui. Oh, everyone thought that this was an important moment for Suika, but yet only Senku was the one. Only Senku was the one that was like considerate enough to give her a hug, and also Kohaku. Yeah. Party Jumps brought this up, but like, it seems strange. Like, this chapter, like, everyone's covering Ryusui about this, but yeah, they weren't covering Suika, who spent like years and years alone in South America. Okay, sure, whatever. But anyway, Senku knows how important it is to Ryusui, and rather than just giving a straight answer, he's like, okay, how do I approach this? What's the best way to actually approach this? Before he gives his answer by saying, a science pro is a man of efficiency, so if the other dude is telling me 1,000,000% a better fit for the job than me, then of course I'm handing over the reins. And Ryusui kind of gives a smile, as like, yeah, I kind of knew that would be Senku's answer. Before Senku says, but you knew my answer before even asking. Yeah, so Ryusui kind of already knew, and he's being called out for it, and he says, yeah, kind of room for you calling out for me. But again, I love the fact that Senku was at least considerate of the fact that, okay, I need to think about what's the best thing here for both Ryusui, but also for the sake of mankind. And he probably knew deep down that, yeah, Ryusui also knows that despite his greed, he's more interested in seeing mankind grow and evolve through his greed as well. And this is the more efficient way to actually do it. We cut to the next day when we have Sinu basically hearing about the plan as well, and he's going, a truly wise pick for the job. No objections, I presume. Yeah, no objections from me and about 95% of the fan base, but there's that over 5% of the fan base who are confused about why Kawaku's going to space. But anyway, Gen says, playing it cool when he can't help but show emotion, he simply hides his face. Like Master like Pooper, right, Senku? Yeah. Gen knows what Sinu's actually thinking. He's thinking what we are all thinking. It's like, yeah, you just want your boyfriend back, Sinu. And yeah, we are going to get to that panel because the Sinu Stanley shippers can rejoice, myself included. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that when we get to it. Sinu goes on to say, but I must say, I'm shocked by this proposal. Stan is the ultimate soldier. If we join forces, we might try and take over the world again. And while that is true, there is a point here that I'm going to get to in a second, when Ryusui says the world domination scheme is non-starter with so much backup and running. Yeah, it's kind of like you can't really take over the world at this point, Sinu. And he says, besides, a man of science is a man of efficiency. So I say we can put our trust in you. And Senku kind of agrees with this, but he knows that there are some people that are going to be like, yeah, this is very risky. Should we actually be doing this? Um, and uh, and Tsunu kind of like eggs them on by saying, "Tell those malcontents that I made a threat that I swore to sabotage the rocket engines unless you revive Stanley." But Ryusui calls him out on his bluff. It's like, yeah, we are not doing that because there is no way you would. Because he knows that, yeah, there's no way Tsunu of all people would tamper with sight and tamper with a rocket of all things. Yeah, there's no way you do that. There's no need for you to be bedded with the villain's role anymore. See, whether you like it or not, you are a citizen of the Kingdom of Science. You are one of your leaders. So I guess this is kind of because Pyjam's had an initial different thought than me. If you go and watch the live stream, he'll go into more details about this. Um, I I think I need to go back and see what he said. But basically, he wanted my thoughts on this. I said, well, yeah, Xenu could take over the world again, but I feel like the reason why he wanted to take over the world in the first place was because he was being shackled down by others. Like let's actually go back and see what he actually said to Chrome. Like what is it? What his initial concept was for why he was taking over the world. Um, so yeah, it would have been in chapter 169 or no 168. It would have been no 167. Wow, it was far back. So yeah. Uh, um, yeah. Here we go. Uh, this is what this is what this is what Cena says to Chrome. The battle is truly over. I have no intention of ending any more lives. This is new world. I am its new ruler. All that remains is for you people to become my subjects. And Chrome says, "Yeah, what? And why should we get? Why should you get to rule? Because I can lead the arrogant masses in the 21st century. Ethics, morals, politics. Those idiots stood by such worthless concepts and prevented humanity from truly progressing. I'm sure you know the types, brutes who would sooner throw a punch than see the true final sight." So yeah, that was basically Sinu's motivation for wanting to take over the world in the first place. That he's basically shuttled by ethics, morals and politics and idiots who just relish in those concepts in his way. But this is kind of like. Reese we say to Celia, like, yeah, there's no point for you burning with the fin anymore because there's no point in taking over the world because you essentially have taken over the world with science because it's your science that is basically helping to restore humanity, and you are one of the leaders of the Kingdom of Science now. So you essentially taken over the world. You just got other people around you to kind of like, yeah, keep you in line and keep you in check. But essentially, you dominate the world now with your science because you are one of the smartest people in the world at this point. Seeing that's basically what Ryusui is saying here. Like, and yeah, there's really no point in taking over the world because like we've got bigger things to be worrying about, as in the Y Man. We come over to some more members of the Kingdom of Science, where we see them just freaking out about Stanley being revived. Ginru being the one, especially considering he's seen firsthand, up close and personal, just how much of a threat Stanley could be when he was like threatening to kill Matsukaze if he didn't tell them where Senku was. But we see Gen presenting Tsukasa as the one who will accompany Sinu to obviously keep him in line and make sure him and Stanley don't do anything suspicious. And they say, and Tsukasa says, on paper we can say that I'm God and a VIP. And this is where Sinu says, but should Stan rebel, Tsukasa will undoubtedly cause me bodily harm. Call me your hostage instead if you wish. So he's basically saying, like, yeah, cut the crap, we all know what this is. And Tsukasa, this is your chance to redeem yourself after letting Sinu get away from South America back to Japan, when you had one job to keep an eye on him and make sure, yeah, nothing suspicious is going on. So this is your chance to redeem yourself in that. Giru continues to freak out and say, but why? He might grab a gun and start shooting the second he wakes up. And he keeps scary. He's scary. Keep him locked up for forever. So yeah, pretty standard of Giru to be the one freaking out about this. But Ukyo reiterates that yeah, you shouldn't actually worry, Giru, because Stanley's a soldier who follows orders and does what the mission asks of him. He's proven that much. And I doubt that's changed. So yeah, that's pretty much Stanley's MO. It's like I'm a soldier, so I'm gonna follow the orders of the mission. I'm for my leader, which my leader / boyfriend is Sinu, so I'm gonna follow the orders from him. And yeah, this kind of makes it, because it's like Stanley, he wasn't really evil. He wasn't really like evil, like ha 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 ha, cackling like Eisen level evil. He was evil in the sense that these guys kidnapped these guys kidnapped my leader / boyfriend and / childhood friend / whatever. So yeah, I am gonna get them back, whatever it takes. Like he's kind of like gotta save Sinu, whatever it takes. Gotta get Sinu back, whatever it takes. That was kind of like his mission throughout South America. Like, show no mercy. They've come in, invaded our turf, kidnapped our leader, and whisked him off somewhere. So gotta focus on them. Gotta get them, kill them, whatever I need to do to get Sinu back. That was kind of like his mentality throughout that arc. So yeah, he wasn't really doing it as for like malicious intent. He was doing it because yeah, people had basically stormed into their turf, kidnapped their leader, and buckled off basically. And this is where Corker says, this works out perfectly. The moon mission could be deadly, and he'll be heading up there to save all of humanity. No better way to atone for what he's done, right? Yeah. Well, he doesn't really need to atone. It's just like, yeah, you guys came in to their turf, stole their leader, and buckled off. So yeah, of course he's going to come after you. Of course he's going to come after you. Yeah. So it's basically to justify, yeah, Stanley's actions were of warfare because you guys basically declared war on them. Chelsea then notices that this is actually bugging Ryusui, and she says, "You're sure about this, Ryusui?" And he's like, "Yeah, what are you talking about? Yeah, I'm sure. I may be a pilot, but my shooting skills." And she's like, "No, that's not what I meant. Weren't you hyped to go to the moon?" And yeah, you know it's serious when Chelsea is doing a serious face for the first time. Yeah, so you know this is kind of a big deal for Ryusui, but you don't have to go that blunt, Chelsea. Anyway, we cut down to where Stanley is petrified, as we see Seiko going, the greatest marksman alive should do a bang-up job for us. No, this is Ryusui saying this. The greatest marksman alive should do a bang-up job for us. Who would have decided that? After all, I'm the greediest guy the world's ever known. And we get Stanley's revival. So we finally got Stanley back. Yay! My favourite villain in Dr. Stone is finally back. And in typical Sinu and Stanley fashion, Sinu knows, like, right, the first thing he is going to do when he revives is he is going to smoke a cigarette. And of course, Stanley starts smoking a cigarette. I can only imagine what the Kingdom of Science, like, particularly Ishigami people, were thinking, like, what's that, Sinu? It's like, oh, it's a cigarette. Like, cigarette? Is that necessary? And he was like, yes, it's Stanley. He has to have a cigarette. Like, come on, that is an that is an addiction. But yeah, I love Stanley's new outfit, because it's like he's got the belt buckle with the two V's on it, so it's like double fit, kind of like double victory for him. Like, I'm revived. I'm back with my partner, my life partner, and you see like the scar on Stanley. It's kind of like the scars are withered and are still withered like Senku and Sinu's, but it's kind of different. Like Stanley, how he had the straight line going across his face. Now it's kind of cut off at the nose head. So he's got like two marks, one on his left. Yeah, one in his left eye and one in his right eye. So kind of nice little detail there. Although I think we do still need to have an explanation of like why some people when they revive still have their scars after being petrified. after being petrified a second or third time, and why some don't have their scars. We still need to actually have an explanation of like why that is. Why Senku, Sinu, and Stanley all still have their scars, but nobody else does. Except for Sai, because he's only been revived once. Once Stanley has his cigarette and he's smoking it, he asks, "What's the job?" Again, love this, as this is a callback to when Tsukasa was revived at Treasure Island. He was like, "What's the situation?" Like, they both know, like, yeah, they've obviously been revived for a reason, because Stanley had the idea of like, okay, they'll keep me hostage to keep Xenu in check. But now that he's being revived, he's like, I assume you have a reason for reviving me. And this is where Senku says, "Love it when they catch on so quickly." And Senior informs him that Stanley will execute any task he believes he's capable of. Professionals are always quick on the update. And I love this because now we finally have Senku, Senior, and Stanley all in the same place together. And yeah, we're probably going to have like a major conversation between Stanley and Senku one-on-one. Kind of like what happened with kind of like what's happened with every major villain, like with Tsukasa, Yoga, Ibara, and Sinu. Like, they've all had a either a one-on-one conflict or a one-on-one confrontation with Senku. So yeah, we're probably going to get this with Stanley now, because he's the last of the big villains, aside from Wyman, to actually have this conversation with Senku. But Xenu gives him a hypothesis. Say you shoot 1 pound piece of ammunition with initial velocity of 600 meters per second. On the moon's surface, gravity and accelerations are 1/6 of what they are on Earth, and air resistance is 0. Your target is a Medusa device exactly 1 kilometer away, and this is when we get Stanley's response. And firing angle should be 0.13 degrees, which is pretty accurate, because Pyjan's informed me that, yeah, somebody did all the maths and calculations, and yeah, pretty spot on. So I could not do the maths myself, so thanks for that guy for doing the maths for us. Senku does say, yeah, the maths checks out. Did Stanley's sheer initial intuition help him come up with that number? And this is where we get the big moment in the chapter, at least for me, like the big moment in the chapter. Sinu asks him if he's up to the task before we see this. We see Stanley caressing Sinu's face with claws, mind you. Stanley has claws now. With his claws, like, he's going like that. Like, okay, yeah, they are not trying to hide it now. Like, they are seriously not trying to hide it now. Like, Sinu and Stanley are pretty much a couple, pretty much confirmed at this point, and all the Sinu Stanley shippers can rejoice. Like, we finally got our way, yeah, confirming that, yeah, these two have been more than just childhood best friends. Yeah, and again, I just love that. Like, we finally, we've got a well-written villain gay couple. Like, again, again, I'm saying this is a good thing because it shows like equality, and actually giving some representation. Like, yeah, gay people, they can be villains. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Just at the same time, straight people can be villains. Like, asexual people can be villains. Like, hey, I'm asexual and I'd be cool with playing a villain in something. Like, if I was given an acting role, like, hey, can you play a villain? Like, yeah, I'd be cool with that. Yeah, like, I'm like, it's all about balance and all about getting equality out there. Yeah, yeah. So having a prominent gay villain couple, but also giving them a redemption, like they're on the side of the heroes now. That's very well, good story writing and great character development. And I'll always praise Inagaki and Boichi for taking this route and not making a big deal out of it, making it very subtle, and leaving it more visual aid rather than them just coming out and saying it as well. I feel like that's kind of being much more appropriate and much more poignant and powerful than just coming out and saying, yeah, well, yeah, you're all right, honey. Like, them just giving subtle hints, like, yeah, we can figure this out. So, congratulations to Dr. Stone giving us a canon gay couple, and also as well a canon pansexual person in the form of Ryusui, and a not canon non-binary person in the form of Franz. Like so much diversity, but making it seem natural. Like again, this is what I think a lot of people are kind of like a bit like, oh man, they're just doing this to be woke, not woke or please the SJW. It's like they just make a big deal out of it. That's the main problem that people have. Like in my opinion, personally, they make a big deal out of it rather than just showing it naturally and just being like what we usually did. Like, oh, I've never bothered to ask Fran what their gender is or what nationality it is. So it's never been brought up. Like that's pretty much all you need to know to say, like, yeah, this person is non-binary. So and Fran is just one of the most lovable characters in the series, and that's what we love about. Like, that's the thing. Their relationship or gender identity. That's only part of their character. It's not the whole character as well, and they've clearly shown that. And that's what people love about Doctor Stone and how it does representation. Anyway, after the reunion of Cedar and Stanley, Stanley says, "Yeah, sure, I am really up to the task." Before we cut tonight, where Ryusu's saying, "I might have lost my seat on the space rocket, but as the backup, I'll better polish my skills. Just doing my pilot's duty. Am I wrong?" Before we see Stanley coming in and overhearing what Ryusui and Fran are about to say by Francois saying, "How very like you, Master Ryusui. You set aside your personal desires in favour of a great desire, victory for mankind. So noble of you to relinquish your spot to Master Stanley without regret." Before Ryusui cuts Fran off and says, "There's no need to comfort me," as we get the flashback again. But I feel like now, because Sai is there and in the exact same position that Ryusui was when he was first getting the flashback, I feel like Sai is kind of having the same thoughts here as well, like the same flashback as well, because Sai knows his brother, so he knows that this was probably the memory he was thinking of at that point. And I just love that Sai has now finally reconnected with his brother to the point that, yeah, I can tell that this is actually affecting Ryusui a lot. The fact that he is not going to space, because this is something that we've been working on together. One of the first things that they've properly worked on, the big massive project aside from the computer, but this is on a bigger scale. And Sai was probably thinking, like, I want to be the first person to shake my brother's hand whilst he goes into space rocket, and now they can't do that. Ryusui says, "I wanted this so bad, damn it," as we get him crying, like the first time we've ever seen him like properly cry in the series. Like, oh my god, that just took me out of it. Like, no. Side notes, we'll get into it at the end of the chapter. We'll finish it off by saying, as Ryusui is pointing his gun at the 4 targets that he was trying to practice at, that he was doing target practice at, because he was missing the targets. We get 4 bullseyes, and Fran is like, bullseye at this rate shows skill though, and Ryusui confirms that it wasn't him, and we see that Stanley was the one who actually fired. So yeah, even Stanley knows that, yeah, this is kind of important for Ryusui as well. So maybe we'll get some training from Stanley in guns and firearms, not just for Ryusui but also for Senku and Koko. Like, they'll need training of how to be a skilled pilot, and also to how to handle firearms. Because if Stanley messes up on this mission, then they're kind of screwed when it comes to using firearms. But yeah, not when Stanley messes up on this mission. If something bad happens to Stanley, then they're kind of screwed when it comes to using firearms. Before we get the ending caption by saying, "Senku in Ishigami, Kaku, Stanley Snyder, those 3 have been selected," and that's the end of the chapter. So really good character development chapter for Ryusui, and really good showcasing just why Stanley is the one that's been selected over him. Now, maybe the fact that we've had Kohaku and Stanley take over from Tsukasa and Ryusui, who were the initial selections for the Pilot and Warrior. We might actually get either Chrome, Suika, or both taking over from Senku as the one to actually be the scientist to go up in space. Which, hey, I'm not complaining if that happens, but I feel like Senku as the main character should be the first one to be the one to land on the moon. I feel like that should be Senku's guaranteed spot. That, yeah, as the main character, he should be the one to first go on the moon. Now, in terms of what I think is going to happen, like, I actually think this mission is going to be botched. Like, as soon as they get to the moon and land on there, something bad is going to happen, and they might actually be petrified on the moon before they even have a chance to go and talk to Iman. Like, there might be like a super fast petrification device on the moon, and Senku, Kohaku, and Stanley might be petrified on the moon, which will prompt Ryusui and Sinu and everyone to be like, we have to make another rocket to get up there to help them out. That's probably what's going to happen. That's probably what's going to happen, which will not only give more characters a chance to actually go into space, but also to give Ryusui the chance to actually be a pilot of a spaceship that he wanted. So I reckon that this is being done deliberately, so there can be so that they can be a backup. Like, hence why we said I'm the backup. Like, he made a point to bring that up. Like, yeah, he's the backup. There's gonna be something that's gonna go wrong, which will prompt him to actually go into space himself. Because as we know, plans in Dr. Stone, they never go well the first time. Like, if you remember back on Treasure Island and in Stone Wars, the plans that they had, the first plans there, they backfired in a big way, so they had to kind of like retreat and come up with a different plan. So yeah, this is probably going to be backfiring in the biggest way possible. Like, as soon as they get on the moon, petrified, can't do anything, Chrome, Sinu, Tsukasa, everyone's going to be like, right, we need to build a second rocket to get up there, and we have to do it in rapid succession to actually put a stop to Y-Man as soon as possible. So yeah, that's my theory about what's going to happen, and fingers crossed it does come true. But anyway, guys, what did you think of this chapter? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this will be Lasherluke signing off. Later, guys.